Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Friday the 7th of March and in this educational video where there's no advice or recommendation whatsoever, we're going to take a look at Nvidia this morning after another sell-off yesterday. There was a little bit of a bounce midweek, but yesterday it sold off once again, resuming downtrend has been the name of the game for a couple of weeks now, and there's no support until around 100 and 200 and around that area, 100 maybe even. And looking at the weekly, we'll see down around 100, 101 we have a little bit of a support, but there's a downside risk even below 100. Negative sentiment on the daily, very close to also on the weekly. So if we get a weekly close that is lower today, then we could see the RSI on weekly also in bearish territory. So looks quite heavy for Nvidia. That has been the star for the past few years. On the overall indices, we have S&P 500 also sold off yesterday, dipping below the 200 moving average, but shows close just above. But negative sentiment, all indicators pointing to lower levels. The only one that is still rising is the 200 moving average. There's now downside potential to around 5,670 in this area here, where we have a bit of a support. The Nasdaq 100 closed yesterday well below the 200 moving average, but just above the 20,000 mark. But I think we could see a lower push here towards the end of the week. If we get a close below 20,000, well, we could be looking at 19,622, maybe even lower, but there is some support down here. Dow Jones still holding on above the 42,518 support. I think if we see another break below these two lows here from this week, we will be looking at Dow Jones testing the 42,000. Another good day in Europe yesterday, and we are set all for a little bit higher open this morning. We have EuroStoxx50 still in a bullish trend, and as long as we stay above this area 5,356, I'm fairly confident, despite the fact that we do see divergence. You can see the strength indicator values are declining. Market moved higher, so we are a little bit stressed. But if it can take out the previous peak or all-time here, 5,568, then we could see higher levels here. With pre-market, we can see we are a little bit up. DAX closed at 1.5% higher, new all-time highs. Closed very close to 23,500. Bullish trend, but there is divergence, as you can see here. It is a bit stretched, but if we can get RSI back to close above the falling trend line, we could possibly see even higher levels towards 24,000. The pre-market here, we can see, well, the CFD slash the Germany CFD here and the future was closed unchanged yesterday. A little bit setback here at the pre-market, so maybe we are a little bit stressed, but let's see during the day if there will be some profit taking in the DAX constituents. The dollar is getting weaker and weaker, and we can see your dollar pushing towards the 109, 109.35 resistance area here. I think we will reach it maybe before the end of the week, maybe early next week. We are positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating we are likely to push up there. There could be some corrections, although I think we are set for high levels. Also, sterling dollar. Positive sentiment. The indicators are supporting higher levels towards 130, 130 and a half. Euro sterling also pushing higher here. Currently trading above the cloud, trading above the 200 moving average, and the RSI also above 60 threshold, indicating a push towards 80, 84 and a half, 84.60. Dollar yen testing 147.20 support, just above the falling trend line here. It's not that strong a support really. So I think we'll see dollar yen pushing lower in the coming days and weeks. And what we can also see here on the weekly, it will be key where we close on the weekly. We can see that we are actually currently below the key support here at 148.65. That had been tested quite a few times, as we can see here on the daily chart. We are seems to be destined for lower levels, and especially if RSI closes below 40 on the weekly, well, then we are likely to push lower. Euro yen, strong bounce, and let's look at the daily chart here. It got rejected at 161.20. Could resume downtrend back below the 55 moving average. I think we'll see it slide back lower here in the coming days. RSI rejected at 60 threshold. However, excuse me, if RSI is closing above 60 threshold, and that could occur if Euro yen closes above 161.20, then we could see a push higher towards 163.60 level. The Aussie yen got only up to 50%. I would have expected at least up to the 61.8 retracement, 95.25, but now it has resumed downtrend, and I think we'll see a push to test the support here at 91.80, and possibly also taking out negative sentiment, no divergence, indicating lower levels on Aussie yen. Sterling yen rejected at 55 moving average, did spike above the 786 retracement, but rejected here at the 192.5. RSI is still negative sentiment, indicating we are likely to see sterling yen sliding lower, but could be a little bit indecisive. What I would do, I will add a horizontal line here. You can see there. Say, okay, if it takes out 189.85, always subtract a little bit, then downtrend has resumed. Aussie dollar rejected at 786 retracement at 63.60, and the 100 moving average and the upper part of the cloud. So technically we are still in a bearish trend, or bearish sentiment. Negative sentiment on the RSI got rejected at 60 threshold. I think it will slide lower towards the weekend, but it really needs to get below 61.85 to really confirm a bearish trend. So let's see, maybe forming a little bit of a top reversal there. If it takes out 63.65, then we could see a push above 64 and higher. On the dollar Canada, it has been extremely volatile lately, of course, with all the tariffs talk. Then we have the it dipped to the 786 retracement of this uptrend here at 142.35, bouncing, and I think it could keep bouncing the next towards the end of the week, and possibly also going into next week. We have positive sentiment on the RSI indicating a likely higher levels, and if it starts moving back above the 55 moving average, then I think the uptrend will resume. However, if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 142.39, well, then I think we'll see a test of these support levels down here, and then we could go into a bearish trend. Sterling Canada has been extremely volatile, or extremely strong uptrend and volatile lately. Still in this stalling a little bit. However, there is still positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating that we could see higher levels, but I did expect a bit of a correction, maybe down to below 183, maybe 182 before next push higher. But let's see about that. It could still do it. So I would say if it takes out that little dip there, we are at 183.75. If it takes out that, then maybe we could see that dip down to 182. But we are in an uptrend, and I think it will continue. Swiss franc has really been on the move of late, but yesterday got the Euro Swiss beaten back down again to the 95.15 support area here, testing a little bit. We are in a bullish trend. Positive sentiment on the RSI is likely to see it pushing, at least indicating we will see higher Euro Swiss levels, but here weekly it is still a little bit indecisive. Didn't close above the weekly cloud area. So let's see about that. We are above on the daily. I think we'll see a lot of volatility next towards the end of the week, and also going into next week. A lot of stuff could happen on the political scene over the weekend. We can see we set back 38.2. We could see a setback back to 61.8 even here, just around 94.5 before next push. However, if it starts moving back above 96, then I think we'll see uptrend resuming. Dollar Swiss lower, likely to test the minor support here at 87.80. We could see a push down to 87.30-35 area. A negative sentiment on the RSI. All indicators pointing to lower levels. We are below the dollar Swiss is below the 200 moving average at the moment. So I think we'll see a push down to that around that area here, and then a bit of a bounce. And finally on the dollar index. Keep pushing lower below 104. I think we could see a dip to the 103.29 where we have a bit of a support. And actually it's a little bit stronger than that, but in this area here around 103.28-29 around that, I think we'll see a test of that, maybe even dipping below, but at least testing it. Gold is taking a breather at the moment, as we talked about past few days. Got rejected here, the 786 retracement of this corrective phase here, then bounced to the 786 retracement, setting back a little bit to the 38.2. If it takes out the lows there from yesterday at 28.91, I would say 28.90, then we'll see a setback down to around 28.54, maybe even that, maybe testing the key support here at 28.30 or 32. Well, if it takes out that, well, then we are looking at lower levels. However, if it takes out 29.30, then expect uptrend to resume with a push towards 3,000. Silver also taking a little bit of a breather here around the 786 retracement at 32.70. If it really can push above that, I know it spiked just a little bit above, well, but it needs a little bit more, then we could see a push back above 33.5. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, indicating likely higher levels. Copper spiked above previous peak here at 483.65. Then a setback, and we could see a setback, I believe, a little bit lower, maybe 470. We could do this, so we could actually see what's going on here. Let's say, okay, it could maybe a setback to the 61.8 retracement at 463.25. But we are in a bullish trend, and it is pointing higher. To demolish this bullish picture, a move and a close below 449.75 is required. On the energy side and crude oil, here we have WTI that spiked almost to 65 level, 65.23. Looking at the weekly, we can see there's still room down to around 64, maybe even below 62, but maybe a little bit of a bounce here. We could see that, and I think it maybe is a little bit more clear on the Brent crude oil contract that dipped below the 68 support. You can see here also below $70. So we are in a bearish trend also medium term, but are forming a little bit of a bottom and reversal pattern. So what I will do, I will just where are we? We will add a Fibonacci to it and say, okay, this bearish move here, we are looking at levels, possibly a little bit of a bounce. Could see it up to 71.70, maybe even 73.78. But for now, we are in a bearish trend, and there's no certainties that this will actually form into a bottom and reversal candle formation. Dutch gas took out 38 euros yesterday, continuing lower today. So let's zoom out a little bit. We don't have any strong support until around down here, around 32. So that was a monumental collapse, and we can see on the weekly what actually has been going on. So it actually spiked just above the previous peak here, and then it couldn't hold on, and now we are back here around the 100 weekly moving average, RSI testing 40 threshold. So the double bottom over here did not materialize, and now we are seeing weakness again. The Henry Hub US Nat Gas also a little bit of setback after spiking just above 450. Could set back a bit again. If it takes out 420, then I think we could be looking at levels below $4, and maybe even lower, but in this region here. US 10-year Treasury yields, let's just adjust the chart a little bit. That bounced above 4, almost up to 435. Then now testing the 200 moving average. We are in a downtrend. Negative sentiment on the RSI, no diversion, indicating lower levels. But I think if it takes out the peak from yesterday, and if it takes out 435, then we could see a push up to 440, maybe up to 445. The 2-year Treasury yields also a little bit heavy here. Still in a bearish trend. If it takes out to 384, well, then there's not really much stopping it until around 360. But I think we could still see a little bit of a bounce. But I want to have a confirmation above 405, and then we could see it looking at 415, 417. On the European yields, a little bit of a setback after spiking almost up to 3%. It hit 293, but I think we will see it pushing higher in the coming weeks and months. That was really some breakout there. There is potential higher towards 3% and maybe even higher for the euro, the 10-year yields. If it starts closing this gap area here, well, then suddenly we could see a collapse, but I don't really see that occurring at the moment. The UK 10-year opened much higher yesterday, but just slid back, and it opened just below 480, but slid back down to the 465, 465 area. So it'll be interesting to see where it will open today. I think we'll see it maybe jumping or bouncing a little bit back here. If it takes out the peak from yesterday, expect to move up towards 5%, but I think we could see it sliding back a little bit lower. Moving on to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Really hard to read at the moment, extremely volatile here between 80,000 and 92,000. It really needs to get back above this rising trend line here. It needs to get back above 95,130 to establish a bullish trend. For now, just a lot of volatility. Could as well just slide back below 28,000 to 24, 23. So sometimes it's just really hard to read. Ethereum, on the other hand, seems to have found some support here at 2,000, 2,100, but it needs to get it back above at least 2,552 to try to get a push towards the 2,800 area. But then we have the 55 moving average coming down, kind of putting a lid on it. Give it a couple of days and be careful if you're trading cryptos. Extremely volatile at the moment, and no clear direction. However, if it takes out 2,000, well, then it's looking at 1,800 level. All right, that's all for today and this week. Have a nice weekend. Talk to you again Monday.